Now, let's get another perspective on corporate governance. This time, Mr. Tasneem Noorani is joining us to talk about corporate governance. He's a member of many boards, so thank you for being part of the program. Let's start off by talking about the state of corporate governance in Pakistan. How do you think companies are complying with the code that was introduced some time back?
Well, I think it's early years of the efforts of the Government Securities Exchange Commission to really introduce professional corporate governance. Prior to that, of course, you've had professional chartered accountants, but the regulators have, I think, come in with a significant amount of effort this time. And it's going to take time because so far the companies are not necessarily very compliant, or if they are compliant to the Securities Exchange Commission code, it's more in the letter than in the spirit.
So they're not actually embracing the spirit of these new regulations?
Yes, I think because except for the multinational companies here, the family-owned companies, the small companies, they actually have not really realized the advantages of so corporate governance. They feel that corporate governance is something which is being given to them by some theoreticians coming in from highly educated schools, and who don't know business, and since they haven't made money, they really cannot teach the entrepreneur how to improve his business.
What is the essence of corporate governance from your perspective?
Well, the essence of corporate governance is basically that the investments, whether it is from the public or whether it is from the family-owned, their returns are maximized in a transparent manner. Heretofore, what our investors have been thinking, that they think that making money by all means, regardless of whether paying taxes or is important. That is the most important thing. Now, in this multilateral world, where investments flow across borders, it is now to be understood by our entrepreneurs that unless they come up on levels which are internationally accepted, they cannot become a part of the international world. And if they cannot become a part of the international world, they cannot sell and buy, effectively. And so therefore, that is the essence, that if our companies start to implement corporate governance, and the family-owned businesses or private-owned businesses also realize the importance of corporate governance, then they can reach a stage where investments will start flowing into their companies, which is not happening so far.
So actually adopting good governance practices will help them from a business perspective, attracting investment and being able to trade with other countries which may not be able.
That's precisely the advantage, that if you follow international corporate governance rules, which gives comfort to the stakeholders, which gives comfort to the investors, which gives comfort to the ordinary stock exchange shareholders, you are likely to get more money into your organization, even though compared to another company which is closed, which people do not think very comfortable about, where people think that the owner is just feathering his own nest. Even though the declared profits may be more in those companies, but people will not feel comfortable in investing in there, especially the good corporate funds, the good funds, which have large sums of money.
As organizations have grown and become more complex, and I suppose the size of organizations is much, much larger than it used to be, especially some of the big corporations, do you think the board can adequately discharge its duties when they're only meeting, say, once every 3 to 4 months? Isn't that a bit difficult for them?
Well, what is happening is that these days the boards have a lot of independent directors, but at the same time, they have a lot of directors who are executive directors. So therefore, boards also have directors who are kind of involved with the day-to-day affairs also in certain specified areas. And so that, in effect, gives board a more intrusive look into the affairs of the company. So the whole board may be meeting once in 3 years, but a significant number of the board members are interacting with the management on a regular basis.
So you actually meant 3 months instead of 3 years. So yes, if they might be meeting every 3 monthly, but because you've got executive directors, that makes it a little bit easier.
The interaction is there. But as I said, on paper everything is fine, But I think the realization has to still come that the corporate governance as a principle or as a mandate or as a book is good for the financial well-being of that company.
Mr. Tasneem Noorani, thank you very much for being part of the Corporate Governance Program. Before we go, let me give you a recap of what we've been talking about on this week's episode. Put simply, corporate governance is defined as a series of structures and processes for the direction and control of a company. Corporate governance must not be confused with public governance, corporate social responsibility, or business ethics. Corporate governance finds its roots in the separation of ownership and control. Corporate governance is regulated by external and, of course, internal frameworks within the organizations. That is, the legal requirements imposed by the likes of the company's ordinance for large public companies and, of course, the internal structures that you set up within the organization. Well, that's all we have for you in this week's Corporate Governance Program. We hope you enjoyed the program. We look forward to having you with us. And once again, our special thanks to the IFC, International Finance Corporation, for being part of this program and promoting the message of good governance in Pakistan. I'm Amir Qureshi. We'll see you next week.